It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Good evening. Buenos noches. I know that's Spanish. Welcome to the Sit Down for Sunday night, the 29th. Yes, the 29th of October, 2023. Hopefully everybody has had a pretty good weekend. I want to thank you very much for joining me. Whether you are live or on the archive, always appreciated. Keep supporting DonTony.com, DonTony.com, DonTony.com. And while you're at it, make sure you check out, for all you DTKC show fans out there, old and new, check out the little announcement that Kevin and I did earlier this week. So we will start putting that into force in about a week. So definitely look out for that. Now, I'm going to get right into the show today because we have had kind of a crazy weekend. A lot of content out there. And I know for some of you out there, it takes a little bit extra time to absorb it. Don't want to repeat a lot of the same conversations twice. So I want to thank you all. For those who are live, this is the format for the show. It's simple. I show up with nothing. I have no news, nothing planned in advance. You dictate what we talk about tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, or if you want to give me some topics to discuss tonight, all you got to do is be in the live chat. And before your question, just write in capital letters the word question. If you have just a comment you want me to share with the world, write in capital letters the word comment. And as always, super chats, not required, never required, but it obviously helps pay the bills, keeps me in business. We'll always get some VIP treatment. Now, I do appreciate some of you out there who send me a question before we go live, especially if it's one that provides some research. It's not easy while you're live on the show and someone says, top 5 favorite Halloween Havoc moments of all time. There's been a lot of Halloween Havocs over the years, and sometimes you got to kind of like Google, look over the cards, kind of reminisce. You know, I could give you my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time like that, but I can't give you my top 5 WrestleMania moments in a matter of seconds. But I saw someone sent me this really interesting question. It has nothing to do with wrestling. We'll get into that a little bit later. But because a majority of you out there do tune in for wrestling reasons, we'll kick off with a little bit of wrestling. So, to open it up tonight, we have Chris Cuttra. Thank you, my friend, for the 1999. What if at Crown Jewel, here's a scenario, everybody. What if at Crown Jewel, Drew McIntyre beats Seth Rollins for the championship, Judgement Day then come out, help Damian Priest cash in after they start the match. Judgment Day turns on Damian Priest, costing him the win. And Drew McIntyre, who would have just beaten Seth Rollins, is revealed as the new Judgment Day member. If that was AEW or Impact Wrestling, I would say, yeah, that would be something interesting we would not have seen. That would have been out of nowhere. And it's an interesting twist. The problem is that we have Survivor Series coming up in November. And Survivor Series, it's likely going to be War Games, and it's going to be the Judgment Day and the Bloodline on one side. And on the other side, you know, participants to be named, Cody Rhodes will likely be one of them. I don't see Drew McIntyre, after all of this, becoming part of a faction. You know, that's the thing. Drew McIntyre, but I can see, this is what I can see. I could see Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso asking Drew to be their partner. and then maybe he screws them towards the end. The problem with that, and I've kind of touched on this before, is you got to remember the match we're talking about. We're not talking about a regular Survivor Series match where he could just drop down the ring and leave. Drew McIntyre would be locked inside of War Games. So if Drew were to turn, it would be kind of hard sell that Drew would be beating up Judgment Day and the Bloodline. Yes, listen, it makes sense why you would hate the Bloodline, but it would be kind of odd to see him for 40 minutes beating up his opponents, and then at the very last minute, he is going to align with them. I just don't see it. I think Drew McIntyre is going to be his own guy, but it's not a bad scenario. Listen, with a little bit of tweaking, that obviously can happen. But I just think after everything is said and done, Drew McIntyre is going to be his own lone wolf. Not trying to bite off of Baron Corbin, but I think Drew McIntyre doesn't want to be aligned with anyone. If you see, like with The Miz, with JD McDonough, like he'll still beat the crap out of heels. I think Drew McIntyre just doesn't want to be around anybody. But it's definitely an interesting twist. I do believe Drew McIntyre will be involved in this storyline in some capacity. Keep in mind, Drew McIntyre may end up being World Heavyweight Champion by Survivor Series, and who knows? Maybe Seth Rollins is on the team that takes on the Judgment Day and Bloodline at Survivor Series for War Games. Think about it. One side could be Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and possibly Kevin Owens. Why can't somebody from SmackDown be on that team? And then on the opposite side, you have the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. The only thing is, though, is why in storyline, why would Nick Aldis allow one of his members to be on a Team Raw? You know, we think I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I think we are going to get a Team Raw versus Team SmackDown Survivor Series match. It won't be War Games, but Drew McIntyre will definitely get involved with this in some capacity. As of right now, my vibe is that Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins have a rematch at Survivor Series, and I don't necessarily think that Seth Rollins, I would put Gunther on Team Raw, not War Games. But Team Raw could have some of the big names that are not involved in these feuds. So that's not out of the question, Chris. With a little bit of tweaking, that could happen in some capacity. But Drew McIntyre, I think, is going to be his own lone wolf when everything is said and done. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Chris. Shout out to Zinpulse. Thank you for the 5 spot, my friend. Salute, big dog. Appreciate the content. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. And by the way, for everybody that tuned into yesterday's show, Ma, I'm working here. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. I did find out who that customer was that stirred shit up yesterday. I'll give you the short story of what happened very quickly. I do these shows, the Don Tony Show, every Saturday at noon. And I make sure, unless something really has to go down, I don't put, the shows before family, friends, and work, real outside work. But if I don't have to do any of that stuff, I do my shows Saturday at noon. Yesterday, while I'm live, about an hour into the show, my wife is banging on my door, and she knows don't interrupt me unless it's something seriously important. She bangs on my door, and she says, my mother's on the phone. My mother is saying like I was supposed to meet a customer at my office to notarize documents, and he's pissed off and this and that. And I said, I never told anybody to do it. And they're like, no, he said you were supposed to meet him, and I gotta go. What is she talking about? And my brother, who apparently talked to this guy, is like, no, you don't understand. You have to go. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. First of all, I wasn't even dressed appropriate to go over there. And I'm in the middle of doing the show. So anyway, long story short, people were kind of like concerned. This was a big deal that went down yesterday. It's live if you check out yesterday's show. After the show was over, I immediately called my bro. And I asked my brother, I said, what was that all about? It turns out that about 2 weeks ago, some guy in the neighborhood that's supposed to be connected, Let's say it that way. If you don't know what connected means, Google it. He's supposedly connected. He came into my office and needed something done. Just something checked for him as far as insurance goes. So I did it. He doesn't have insurance with me, but I had to check something for somebody that was friends with him. So while he was there, he said to me, goes, "Do you notarize?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a notary." He's like, "All right, I have a few papers I'm probably going to bring to you to have notarized. When are you here?" And I said, "I'm here during the week, Monday through Friday from whenever to whenever." He says, "All right, well, I'll probably stop like around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I said, "Yeah, I'll be here." Somehow he thought I included Saturdays, and I didn't include Saturdays. And apparently this guy is like really well connected, and he's one of those where you're supposed to drop what you're doing and go whatever they ask for. Not trying to be a jerk, but there was no fucking way that I was going to stop the show early yesterday, throw on pants, run to my office just so I could stamp a paper. Yesterday was Saturday. There's no mail pickup until Monday. Tell me what was so fucking urgent that I couldn't notarize it Monday morning. So I told my brother, I said, "Look, I'll do it Monday morning." I said, "This was a misunderstanding, so the guy's coming to my office tomorrow morning." Now, because he's connected, I don't know what I'm going to deal with here. Is it going to be simply like, "Hey, I thought you were in on Saturdays"? No, I'm not in on Saturdays. It was miscommunication, but here, I stamp it now, all done. Or is he going to be one of those like, "You told me you were going to be here Saturday, 12 noon. I stood out here like a motherfucking jerk, and you fucking didn't show. And then I tell your brother, and you still don't show. I fucking needed these things stamped Saturday, and you didn't stamp shit." What am I supposed to say back? You couldn't do anything anyway because the mail doesn't pick up until Monday. What did you say? Are you fucking challenging me? What the fuck did you just say? Are you That's what you go on in this neighborhood. So I don't know what to expect tomorrow, but one thing is for sure, I have to notarize some papers. All of that for just to notarize something. I should have just said, "No, I don't notarize." No, I gave that up. I gave it up for Lent. I gave up notarizing papers for Lent. So there's the story for those that want to know. Tomorrow night, we do the Raw recap, predictions for Crown Jewel and predictions for Halloween Havoc week 2. I'll let you all know. Well, actually, if I'm live, then that means I survived. If I show up tomorrow and I got bruises all over my face, then you know that something went horribly wrong. So do not worry, everyone. What I truthfully will believe will happen is I'll walk in tomorrow. The guy will probably be at my door. "Hey, I thought you were going to be here at 12 noon on Saturday." And I'll say, "Listen, I'm really, really sorry." I said, I don't know why I would have said Saturdays, but Saturdays I come in by appointment. I had no idea you were coming in. Otherwise, I would have made sure I was here. "That's all right. Just, stamp the papers. No charge. Don't worry about it. No charge. This one's on me." And I think that's what'll happen. All right? No DTKC show this week. I will talk to Kev about next week. We originally were going to do Crown Jewel predictions. The problem is that Tuesday's Halloween. He has to work on Halloween. And honestly, SmackDown's already taped. So we already know what ramifications as far as matches go come out of SmackDown. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not giving out spoilers. But the matches that are advertised do not change. And predictions, I don't think change much coming out of SmackDown either. Raw could possibly change something, but there's no reason to do Crown Jewel predictions so late in the week. Nothing's going to change after Raw. I mean, they might announce a pre-show match. Indus Sher is supposed to have a match. They haven't announced nothing yet. There's supposed to be a surprise. There's supposed to be a little bit of an interesting segment with that fucking soccer player. So, outside of that, that really doesn't affect the future of WWE programming. So we do Crown Jewel predictions on Monday. So, all right. Yeah, Ronnie, I'm going to get into your question in a couple of minutes since it doesn't have to do with wrestling. Let's do a couple of wrestling questions from the chat, And then we'll get into your Cheesecake Factory post. I had no idea that happened with that girl. And I looked up the video, and I got something to say about that. She looks like a dark-skinned Nikki Bella. And I say that because I mean it. I mean, talk about a prima donna. Holy shit. It doesn't matter if she was white, black, straight, gay, yellow, green, 2 eyes, 3 eyes, 10 fingers, 12 fingers. All right. Kevin Milwaukee. Why do they call Kenny Bolin Star Maker? I mean, where does that moniker originate from? Well, I'll give you 2 answers. One is kind of a cop-out, but one isn't. Ask him. Ask him. Why is he considered Star Maker? My interpretation from knowing Kenny Bolin for a very long time. Now, I don't mean that personally. I mean, I'm friendly with him. Absolutely friendly with him. In fact, he and I were going to do an episode probably about a year and a half ago, and it never happened. It will happen. We just don't want to do one just to do it. But I will say this. Look at his history as far as, the WWE minor leagues. John Cena came, through the indie, not the indies, but the minor league for WWE. Kenny Bolin was the manager and technically a promoter for a lot of wrestlers that are Hall of Famers now that came up back in the day. If you do a little Google search, you'll be very, very surprised as to how many Hall of Famers. So he is the Star Maker because he helped get a lot of Hall of Famers to the dance. He got them through the door and got them to the main roster, indirectly in a lot of ways. But, there's a lot of wrestlers that absolutely respect the man and appreciate the man. I think people that don't like Kenny Bolin, I think it's more of his political views than anything else. And the most interesting thing about him is that he and I are probably on different wavelengths on politics in a lot of ways. I'm not a Trump supporter anymore, and I haven't been for about 3 years now. But, there's a lot of things politically that we don't have eye to eye, but respect. Kenny Bolin, definitely legit, man. That's why when you see some of his podcasts, you'll have JBL on, he'll have, some big time names on there. And it's not because, oh, look who I got on my show. No, it's because they're friends and there's a lot of big mutual respect there. He is responsible for a lot of Hall of Famers. A lot of wrestlers even today that got their break going through Kenny Bolin. That's why Star Maker. All right. We have a super shout out from Oliver Norgrove. Oliver, thank you so much for bringing the library back. Can't wait to listen to the debate with Kevin 2010 over the top 25 masters of the mic list. If I can find that episode, that will be maybe the first one I put up. For those that don't know, I would love for you to still check out the October 24th show that Kevin and I did. But Kevin and I have done shows as early as 2004, I believe. And when we had the falling out in 2020, all the shows were pulled. Not to be spiteful, but I wasn't going to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars a month to keep shows online, with bandwidth and storage and streaming when we had this huge falling out. Like if we're not on even good terms, I'm not pushing content. So I pulled it. We're bringing it all back. We're bringing back over 15 years of content, and, we had this conversation last week. I respect a shitload of podcasters today. There's a lot that I totally disagree with. There's a lot of people that put some really hard work in what they do. But, the one thing that rubbed Kevin and I the wrong way back in March was for 3 years, we had a lot of people in the media world. Oh, you two guys, you did shows for so long. You guys are the OGs. Why have this falling out? You two should get back together. That's what we heard for 3 years. And then when we finally got back together, not only did they all ignore us, but they absolutely refused to even acknowledge that we were doing shows again. And that was a clear-cut sign that, like money and ad revenue Like, if you dare try to take even a cent away from someone else, you are public enemy number one. And that kind of, annoyed us a little bit. But, we're not back to doing shows every single week. And the reason why that's not is because it's not that we have different lives now or different schedules. It's that once we commit, there's no turning back. So right now we do like 2 shows a month. Maybe that'll grow to 3. And who knows in the future? But right now, we're going to bring back the old content. And it'll be fun to look back almost 20 years. Next year will be 20 years that Kevin and I are doing shows. And not trying to be cocky, but I am the longest running wrestling host in history. It is the truth, whether people want to admit it or not. And there's so many people out there that will not acknowledge that. And that's okay. That's okay. I appreciate the love and support that some people do give. I don't want to say that nobody does, but the ones that totally ignore us, we know we're doing something good. We knew that in 2006. When we fucking remember our biggest moment was Stitcher. Was it Stitcher or Spreaker? I think it was Stitcher. Think of this. Back, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago, Kevin and I were the number 1 show on Stitcher. Not wrestling, not sports, everything. For 2 weeks, we had more people tuning into us than Joe Rogan. And it was not a fluke because all the other iTunes had its number 1, everything. It was just crazy how many people would tune in. It was just mind-boggling. Our show went viral for a couple of weeks, and it was awesome. But we're looking forward to it, and we'll see where it goes from here. Just remember that putting the shows back online costs money, and we can't put thousands of episodes back online like this. We can't afford it. So as we go along, we'll put it online. We haven't exactly figured out how we're going to do it. I do know that, it'll originate on Patreon, which is only the right way to go because, they keep us funded. And then, we'll gradually put them online for everybody as well. So, all right. Let's go to the chat. Let's answer some questions. And hopefully everybody's having a wonderful weekend. Yeah, I still got the screenshot from Stitcher. People didn't believe us at that time when we put the screenshot up and people went on there like, holy shit, they are really number 1. Bruce Blitz is returning. That's cool. Hopefully he's committed. One thing I've noticed doing these things for 27 years, you will see hosts leave because wrestling is kind of blah. And then a big storyline happens or a major swerve or a major return. And then you see everybody comes back. Everybody and their mother comes back. And that's fine. But it's like, okay, you only do them when wrestling is at its best. But the challenge is to do it when wrestling is not at its best. And people will only show up when, the attention is there. So, yeah, Bruce Blitz is one of the originals too. But he ain't 1997. So, all right. Ultimate DTKC Anthology. Yeah, believe it or not, when we had the first 2 years on Patreon, which was 2009, 8? I think it was 2008. No, what am I saying? 8? 2017 or 18. We actually were selling at one point like a DVD set of every episode that we had done, not just DTKC show, but Breakfast with Blassie, blah, 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 and Minority Report. We actually were selling like a DVD box set, like 6 DVDs with a couple of thousand shows on it. And, a few people picked it up, but was nowhere near what we expected. Unfortunately, and I know there's a lot of podcasters right now that'll relate to me. You put a design out there or you have a picture and somebody say, oh my God, put it on a shirt and I'll be the first to buy it. And Kevin and I used to do that. We would put a design out there. People like, oh, put it on a shirt. We put it on a shirt and you sell 3 shirts. And you realize a lot of people just talk. So Benjamin with a Tony Khan question. Didn't Tony Khan look like a hypocrite bringing in Ric Flair when he was taking a shot at Vince for his indiscretions. Yeah, but it's for Sting. It's for Sting. That's his justification. Listen, there's some people that I like at Sportskeeda. And then there's some people that I despise on Shitskeeda. Sportskeeda is a legit place, but it's filled with a lot of garbage as well. And Sportskeeda, I have two names for them. Sportskeeda when I want to talk about legit people there, and Shitskeeda when I want to talk about the shit out there. If you go there right now, it's not opinion pieces. You go there right now, you'll have a couple of articles that'll talk about Roman Reigns beating LA Knight at Crown Jewel. And then you'll find an article or two where they're talking about LA Knight beating Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. These are not opinion pieces, might add. As far as Ric Flair goes, that website is one of the big ones out there that always criticize Ric Flair, not only for his indiscretions, but how he was used on television, the last match and this and that. The minute he goes to AEW, there is a tweet that was posted tonight, about an hour before I went live. Tony Khan gave us the duo that we never knew that we needed. And with all these heart emojis, when Ric Flair shows up on WWE television, oh, look at his indiscretions. Didn't they take him off TV recently and they take his woo away because of shit? And, they brought back Dark Side of the Ring and the plane ride from hell and all this outrageous stuff. And it's unforgivable. And then because he's on TV with Sting, oh, this is the duo we never realized we needed in AEW. Fuck you. You fucking ad revenue, please hit on me bullshit. My thoughts on Ric Flair. He's not going to be around long. Listen, I hope it's 5, 10, 20 years. He still lives. But Ric Flair's not going to be around forever. Ric Flair, he loves wrestling. And Car Shield. Woo! I saved a lot of money on my car with Car Shield. Woo! Ric Flair's not going to be around forever. Ric Flair, did a lot of horrible stuff. We hope that he's not that way anymore. What are you going to do? He's beloved amongst people in wrestling. Look at The Undertaker. Vince McMahon did a couple of quick interviews this weekend talking about Saudi Arabia and WWE and this and that. Undertaker's right by his side. And Undertaker, beloved, it's the opposite. Undertaker, beloved. Then he's seen with Vince McMahon. What is he, fucking stupid? Oh, he's a fucking Republican. No fucking wonder why he's with Vince. How could you fucking want to be around that fucking derelict criminal, blah, blah, blah. So people are very fickle. When it doesn't fit their narrative, someone is evil. When it fits their narrative, oh, it's the duo that we never knew we needed. So honestly, I'm not going to criticize Tony Khan. I'm not going to criticize him because this is about Sting's retirement. Sting has done much good in his life. And Ric Flair, there's no sign that he has this behavior in recent memory. Remember, Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell, they're the ones decided to bring back something almost 20 years old. Let that sink in. Something that was almost 20 years old, they decided to bring it back. So what happens? A lot of people feel in 2023 that Ric Flair just did it. So there's this banishment of Ric Flair, and we already knew what happened. But a place tried to profit off of it by bringing back something that was disgusting from 20 years ago. And you try to exaggerate, and you try to put an extra spin on it, something that hasn't been said before to try to get a little bit extra play. Honestly, the people that brought it back are just as awful as the people who keep bringing it back every so often just to get hits and views. Ric Flair, nobody said anything 10 years ago. Nobody said anything when he was in his deathbed, when he came back with his last match. So if we're not going to criticize a lot of other things that Ric Flair has done in the last 10 years that's not criminal or not awful, how am I going to criticize Tony Khan? How am I going to criticize Tony Khan? I can't. All right, this is kind of a morbid question, but Dream 101 with the 2 spot. Do I think Sunny will die in prison? Oh, that's a loaded question. What am I supposed to say? Do I think Tammy will pass away in prison? I'll answer it like this. Tammy is, what, 50? How old is Tammy? Maybe somebody could check for me. She's about 50. I expect her to do around 12 to 16 years in jail. She's probably going to do 12 to 16 years in jail. Someone is checking her age right now. She's not in the greatest of health. She has been, she's done a lot of abuse to her body over the years. There's a lot of depression. Now there's overeating. Listen, you have to feel bad from someone who had it all and totally blew it away, just totally, and killed someone in the process. If she passes away in jail, or if she lives to be 80, she has to pay the price for what she did. You drink or you do drugs, you get behind the wheel. Even if you are the nicest person in the world, you crash into someone and you kill them. You deserve, punishment. All I could say is that you look at, I hate to say it like this, but look at Jake the Snake Roberts. If there was ever someone that we thought would never live to be 55, it would be Jake the Snake Roberts. And he is doing great. And he's healthy. He's got some physical ailments, more physical than, exterior than interior, muscular joint. But, you can turn it around. I mean, there's no way to know. But put it this way, if Tammy lives to be 65, I think it would surprise a lot of people out there. The jail sentence could end up being a death sentence for her. But they have not issued the punishment yet, but I truly expect 12 to 16 years. She'll be in there. So, yeah, some people think she should be in there for life. I don't want to be that guy, but you have to call it. You have to call it. When Ric Flair's son passed away, Reed, I feel awful now. I'm not going to lie. I feel awful now. But if you check out some of the archives that we put up at the DTKC show, remember the 3 faces of Foley? We did the 3 faces of Flair. And it was 3 different mugshots of Reed Flair. And when you saw them side by side by side, you could see how he was deteriorating like this. And I felt awful for Ric Flair. And I felt awful for Charlotte. And I felt awful for David. And I felt awful for everybody in that family. But I also said to myself that I blame the cops. Not fully, but I blame the cops. Because a lot of cops, because he was Ric Flair's son, didn't go hard on him. Kind of gave him a second chance. And I'm one of those strong believers that you have to hit rock bottom in order to pick yourself up. And the thing with Reed Flair is he never got to hit rock bottom because there was always someone there to pick him up because of who he was and who he was related to. So, you see something like that and you say to yourself, if that person would have been allowed to hit rock bottom, but something happened years later that made me think twice about that. Can anybody guess who that person was? Who's the person not too long ago that hit rock bottom and the person's father, loved his son, but said, you did this, you got to pay the price. And he is no longer with us. Can anybody in the chat guess who I'm talking about? Jerry the King Lawler's son, Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher. There's still a lot of controversy that somebody did something to him. But most of us believe that he was so distraught and depressed for what he was going through that what happened. I got to say this carefully, obviously. So up until that point, my thoughts about Ric Flair was, if law enforcement would have treated him like anybody else, who knows if things would have been different today. But then Brian Christopher, and it's like, okay, he did hit rock bottom and he's no longer with us. So there's no perfect scenario. But the thing is, and this is where it comes to Tammy, she got so many opportunities. Where are people like ordering or challenging or complaining about the legal system in Jersey, in Pennsylvania, wherever her crimes were? And she committed DUIs like 6, 7, 8 times and she got out. It was once or twice where she spent time in prison for an extended period of time, but there was many times that she got a slap on the wrist. And you say to yourself, why? Remember a couple of weeks ago, I read off all of her charges, all of her convictions from yesteryear, all the time she was arrested. And you say to yourself, how the fuck did the legal system keep letting her out with almost no penalties whatsoever? Sometimes charges were kind of dismissed. So unfortunately for some people, because of who they are in their stature, they get a little bit extra, leeway. And unfortunately, sooner or later, that leeway still causes their demise. Look what ended up happening to Reed after all. Look what happened with Tammy after all. If both of them would have hit rock bottom and paid a much bigger price early on, who knows what they would be doing today. Never know. You never know. Sometimes, no matter what you do, it's not going to change anything. Alcoholism and drugs are a disease. It's an addiction. It's a disease. It's not just a habit. And it's not just recreational. Your body becomes chemically dependent. And who wants to go through withdrawal and shake and have sleepless nights and your body's just, nobody wants to go through that. So it gets to a point where you're chemically dependent. And by that point, you might be at the point of no return. So rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Yeah, I did see that news last night. For those that don't know, the guy from Friends, Matthew Perry, died. I think he was 55. He drowned. Now, there's no details yet. All we know is that at like 4:00 in the morning yesterday, cops were called to his house in Los Angeles that it was a drowning incident. Did he fall in his pool? This is why people sometimes I criticize for not doing research. I saw some idiots online today in the wrestling world saying, oh, maybe he was intoxicated and he was swimming and he unfortunately drowned. Los Angeles at 4:00 in the morning is 55 degrees out, 60 degrees at most. Unless his pool is indoors, I don't think Matthew Perry was swimming at 60-degree weather in his yard. So we don't know the details. We don't know if he slipped and fell. We don't know if he was under the influence. He's had some issues over the years. Truth will come out, but 55, man, that's awful. That's awful. We don't know the deal. Somebody said jacuzzi. Jacuzzis are so small. Like you literally have to be in a fetal position to drown unless you fall, you hit your head. No joke. Just swear to God. Swear to God. Me and my wife went on a 1-year wedding anniversary. We went to Marco Island in September. You remember, I got stranded in Florida September 9th. We had to stay in Florida to the 11th. I flew home on September 11th, and I don't like flying. We went into the jacuzzi that they had there, and it was small and it was too hot. But the first thing that happened was as soon as I put my foot in there, I almost slipped and cracked my head open because the bottoms were all very, very slippery. So you could just slip and just crack your head open. So we'll see. Somebody says cardiac arrest in a jacuzzi. It's possible. It's very possible. When the news comes out, I'm sure we'll all know. C. Henry, in my opinion, why is Cody Rhodes so over in the WWE, but in AEW he wasn't? That's because in AEW he wasn't the guy. He wasn't portrayed as the guy. He was one of the EVPs, and it felt like, it just, the aura was different. Let me put it this way. That's a very loaded question for me to go back several years of Cody in AEW and now a couple of years in WWE. I'll tell you what is the difference for me, the top difference. For Cody Rhodes in AEW, it felt like he was in a management position trying to become a celebrity in a reality TV world and, worked hard. I mean, he put his body through some crazy shit in AEW, but they came across as things being fed to them. And I know that sounds awful and inaccurate, but what I mean by that is that Cody, when he was on TV, it just felt like he was putting himself out there. And, he would have these feuds, but, the one that I always remember is Anthony Ogogo. It was like, what was really the point of that shit with Anthony Ogogo? Like, it just felt like and then you had Brandy that came out wearing like the funeral outfit with Karma, Awesome Kong, and they're cutting hair and she's cutting promos like she's doing rehearsals for the CW network. It just came off like they were management who wanted to become reality TV stars. They didn't come off as ambassadors. Plus, the first time we saw Cody on All Out, All In, him is crashing, breaking the throne of Triple H. So already he came off as this anti-rebellious, and just the aura of Cody Rhodes is different. Here in New York, on my neck of the woods, where WWE is still looked at as a Northeast company. Yes, they are based in Connecticut. You look at Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes, we feel like we have the authentic Cody Rhodes, like you see right through it. Like Cody Rhodes, I don't think he was trying to, continue the legacy of Dusty Rhodes in AEW. I think that's why I think early on he did that stip that he'll never become world champion, because he did not want that story completed winning an AEW title. And I know what some of you are going to say, well, he won the NWA championship. I get it, but so did Dusty Rhodes. Remember, Dusty Rhodes was NWA champion. Dusty Rhodes did finish the story several times, but he never won the World Wrestling Federation championship. So just the whole aura of Cody is different. And now you see how dedicated Cody Rhodes is, and an ambassador, and how he cares about even like young fans. As I'm telling you, Cody is picking up where John Cena still has, but Cody Rhodes is that ambassador now for WWE. It's Cody Rhodes and Bianca Belair. And there's a lot of others as well, and John Cena still does a shitload too. But the two top ambassadors for WWE are Bianca Belair and Cody Rhodes. Yeah, he had the ROH title as well, but Dusty wasn't going for that. It's the World Wrestling Federation Championship. AG is asking, CM Punk was behind the Devil's Mask hunting MJF. Would that be the biggest work in wrestling history? I've seen those tweets, everyone. And AG, yeah, people are saying, oh, could you imagine if CM Punk is the guy behind the mask? That'd be the biggest swerve in wrestling history. And there'd be too many people between the EVPs and the media to shred it apart. You will never be able to get CM Punk as this tremendously over guy in AEW ever again, as long as you have those EVPs behind the scenes, as long as you have those elite medias that are going to put shit out there to twist things around. And just because CM Punk goes to Impact Wrestling or goes to MLW or works the Indies or goes to whoever else outside of WWE, those people are still not going to shut their fucking mouths. They will be forced to shut their mouths when he is in WWE, because they know that TKO Group Holdings and WWE will not fall for that shit. So they're not going to tolerate that shit. But here's a little teaser for Wednesday's show. I am playing around with the idea that Jack Perry is the devil in disguise. I don't know. I'm not reporting it as news, but I try to think outside the box and I try to be a little bit more realistic. And I wonder, could Jack Perry be the devil in disguise? I know what you're going to say. Oh, God, no. I agree. You think I give a shit about Jack Perry? Honestly? First of all, I don't know if I could zoom in. Yes, I can. Sometimes my cameras glitch. But the fact that you come out there and you think wearing Ray-Bans in 2023 is going to impress anyone, I don't care if your dad wore them. I don't care if it was hip in the 80s or the 90s. Ray-Bans do not impress people anymore. I see him posing with Ray-Ban glasses. I'm like, yeah, I could buy those on eBay for $11 as well. Plus Jack Perry is a heel. Jack Perry's a heel. So if Jack Perry's revealed as the devil, whoever's revealed as the devil, are we supposed to cheer that? Isn't that like the biggest flaw about this storyline? That if Adam Cole is revealed as the devil or Jack Perry's revealed as the devil, whoever's revealed as the devil, isn't that supposed to be a bad thing? I know they attacked Jay White and Bullet Club Gold, but isn't that supposed to be a heel? Am I missing something here? Like, is the devil going to come out and everybody's supposed to cheer? Like, that's epic, amazing, unbelievable? No, it's kind of supposed to be a heel character. I don't know, guys. Sometimes people do reveals for the sake of revealing without thinking it through and using some logic behind it. This whole devil storyline, I'm not intrigued by, because I'm saying to myself, okay, how are we supposed to react after the reveal is there? Are we supposed to pop? Are we supposed to get angry? Are we supposed how are we supposed to react? All right. All right, let me get into runs. Because I think, and by the way, WWE is not bringing back WCW. Just because TNA is coming back doesn't mean WCW is coming back. I don't even know how I feel about the TNA stuff. I like the idea. I like the nostalgic part of it. But unfortunately, nostalgia did not come out for Impact 1000 week 1 or week 2. And a lot of the participants from yesteryear will not be able to come back. They are, unfortunately, washed up. And that just happens with age. So bringing back TNA, it might feel more like OVW, that is bringing back in name only. Logos will be similar. And yes, they will remind us about all the Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle stuff and the AJ Styles stuff and the Christopher Daniels stuff. I honestly think, and I'm probably one of the rare people to say this right now, I think TNA is coming back more for the library than anything else. Because yes, TNA library has always been available through Impact Wrestling, but it still feels like two different companies. So if TNA comes back and TNA, look at our lineage, look at our history, we're celebrating this and we're celebrating that. Impact Wrestling was kind of a different company. Remember, it was TNA, then it was NWA TNA, then it was TNA, then it was Global Force, then it was Impact. It still owned the history, but they changed it. They went away from that. So, yeah, I feel like you're going to see so much of TNA's yesteryear brought back. And because it's TNA again, it kind of makes more sense that the TNA of today celebrating the TNA of yesteryear. You'll probably see a lot of TNA old pay-per-view concepts coming back. You'll probably see even the Hall of Fame. Even the Hall of Fame. Like, why is Impact Wrestling doing Hall of Fame for TNA guys? I know they still celebrate the lineage. They don't do a Wrestling Hall of Fame like WWE does, and they include outside people that never worked in WWE. TNA, Impact, only puts TNA wrestlers in the Hall of Fame or Impact Wrestling stars in the Hall of Fame. So I think the TNA stuff is done to celebrate the history more than the future. All right. Ronnie sent this about half hour before we went live. I will answer one more wrestling question before we get into this. Rocky Red is asking me, at what point did I think the Bloodline storyline had peaked? And in the spirit of Halloween, outside of Shotzi, Kayla, and others, did I see the WWE women dress up as Michael P.S. Hayes? Yes, I did. I have the picture queued up for tomorrow's show as we get closer to Halloween. A lot of WWE women decided to dress up as Michael P.S. Hayes, and they posed with Michael P.S. Hayes, which was pretty cool. So I'll show that picture tomorrow. If you all can't wait, you go look it up on social media today. To me, the Bloodline peaked with the tribal combat. With tribal combat. When Jay left the Bloodline and was feuding with Roman, and then they were going to do tribal combat, do the elders know about this? It was their idea, Oos. Tribal combat rules. Tribal combat rules are the same as the Viking rules, as the same as the Donnybrook match this Friday on SmackDown, as the same as Falls Count Anywhere, as the same, not Falls Count, no DQ. Like, they did this whole tribal combat that was supposed to get rituals, and the elders said this, and it's like a bad episode of Star Trek from 1967. And then at the pay-per-view, we just got a regular no DQ match. No extra, you didn't see the elders. There was no, tribal, war paint. There was no props. There was nothing, to the Samoan heritage. It was just a fucking no DQ match. Tribal combat, to me, was the turning point of the Bloodline hitting a brick wall. To me. All right. Ronnie sent this about a half hour before we went live. And I looked this up, and I had no idea that this happened in the last couple of days, but it amused the shit out of me. Ronnie says, hold on, we answered Chris earlier. Shout out to Chris. All right, here it is. Tony, I'm sending this to you early in case, so you could see it in case you haven't. What's my thoughts on the woman who went out on the first date and refused to get out of the car because the date took her to Cheesecake Factory? Okay. I had to look this up, and I saw the TikTok video. I saw the post, and apparently everybody ran with it afterwards. I did not make this screenshot. Someone else did, but this is the woman, and apparently she went on TikTok. She was sitting in the guy's car that she went on a first date with, and she refused to get out of the car because he wanted to take her out to Cheesecake Factory on the first date. I don't care if she's light-skinned, dark-skinned, if she's green like the Incredible Hulk or Klingon, or if she's got 3 toes and 10 faces. I don't care what she looks like. The fact that she's got TikTok queued up while she's on a first date, I kick her motherfucking ass out of the car. Go to Starbucks, drink a fucking coffee, cafe latte, get the fuck out of my face. The fact that somebody has got social media queued up to vent that, oh, he's taking me to Cheesecake Factory, I'm not getting out of the car. I hope she's single for the rest of her life. That's Nikki Bella to me. That's like, if there was a Nikki Bella that was not famous, that was like 15 years younger, that would be Nikki Bella. That's my honest opinion about this. The fact that she ran to TikTok while she's sitting in this guy's car, she don't deserve to have anybody. Fuck that. I know that I'm older, and I know that social media is handled a lot different today than it was even 10 years ago. I use the word tacky. That is tacky. That is just moronic. She don't deserve that guy. And I don't know nothing about that guy. Now, the list that this guy is, I guess, referencing to is this. I got to make it smaller. After this woman posted this, women in droves came out and started expressing where they would not go out on a first date. And people reposted this list everywhere. And I don't know why it's only a top 28 list, but it's 28 places where women absolutely refuse to go to on the first date. And this is the list. Number 1, I'm just going to run through it quickly. Number 1, Cheesecake Factory. 2, Applebee's, Chili's, Chipotle, Olive Garden, Your House, any fast food chain, Buffalo Wild Wings, Wingstop, Red Lobster, A Buffet, IHOP, Denny's, The Gym, Church, Starbucks, coffee dates, ice cream dates, family functions, movie night, somewhere that requires a long drive, bowling, nightclubs, hookah bars, a bar for just drinks, Waffle House, sports events. Out of this list, the only places that I wouldn't take someone is any fast food chain. I would not go out to a McDonald's or Burger King or a Wendy's. I wouldn't do that. Buffalo Wild Wings, I mean, it's too messy, so I'd probably say no to that. Wingstop for the same reason. A Buffet, I'm such an idiot. It's not the restaurant name is not A Buffet. It's A Buffet. Any buffet. Duh. I wouldn't take anybody to a buffet. I wouldn't take anybody to the gym. I wouldn't take anybody to church. Starbucks, I probably wouldn't. Coffee, I got news for you. There's a lot of awesome Italian and Greek coffee shops in Queens, New York that are not cheap. You go to a nice coffee shop. I don't know what kind of coffee shops these women are talking about, but there's some nice coffee shops that I would go to. Ice cream dates, family functions, bowling, all right. Nightclub, absolutely not. Hookah bar, hooker, TJ. I wouldn't go to either. Sports events, probably not. But come on, man. There's a lot of places on this list. Red Lobster ain't fucking $7 anymore. Olive Garden, Olive Garden's a little bit cheap, but I got news for you. I took my wife, our first date, to a seafood restaurant in the neighborhood. It's not anything great. And after we ate seafood, we went back to my house and we watched Goodfellas. I think we watched Goodfellas. We didn't do anything that night. We were just hanging out. I think we had some ice cream. We had a fun time. There was nothing wrong with it. I mean, I see this list, honestly. I think it's a little ridiculous. But honestly, that woman, any woman or man that has social media queued up, I could see if she's DMing her friends. Oh, he's taking me to Cheesecake Factory. I could see if you're talking to your friends privately and you just feel he's being cheap or whatever it is. Okay, whether you're right or you're wrong, that's different. The fact that she couldn't wait to go on TikTok, to tell the world that this guy said she don't deserve nobody. Honestly, she deserves nobody. Dream says, thank God I'm not dating in 2023. That's fine. Fine with me. I have no complaints. But that list, I would say probably 2/3 of it, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know what's wrong with that list? People think that going to some of those places costs $10. I took my wife to Texas Roadhouse, which wasn't on the list. But Texas Roadhouse, if you just have a drink, you could even choose Red Lobster. You have a drink, an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert, and a soda, that's $100. That's $100. Red Lobster, that's $100. This is not all-you-can-eat shrimp for $7.99 anymore. So a lot of those names on there, I think it's more of the stereotype than anything else. No, that's ridiculous. Okay. How long have we gone? We've gone an hour already, believe it or not. And I only wanted to go a little around an hour-ish because we got a big show tomorrow. Tuesday, we have Patreon. We got Wednesday Night Dynamite. And then this weekend, by the way, no Don Tony show Saturday at noon because at 1:00 Eastern is Crown Jewel. I will be here live immediately after Crown Jewel for your post-show review. So it's already on my channel if you want to hit the reminder button or the schedule button. As of right now, I expect this to happen around 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. So make note of it, 12 noon, no Don Tony show this Saturday. We will just do a Crown Jewel recap instead. So keep note of that. Mo Words is going to Crown Jewel. Have an awesome time, man. Have an awesome time. Crown Jewels, you know, it's pretty funny. Remember when Crown Jewel first came out? And a lot of people complained. Yes, a lot of the show was about surprise factor, you know, title change because it's happening in Saudi Arabia. You know, you had DX reuniting, which was a disaster, you know. And look, Shawn Michaels, we all, for the most part, appreciate him now. He's doing a great job for WWE. I think looking back on it, most of us never expected Shawn Michaels to be doing this much work still within WWE. He always thought he'd be home with his family, retired, making appearances once in a while. He's really picked up with Dusty Rhodes left off, not even Triple H. Like, Shawn Michaels has really got his hands dirty in NXT and doing a spectacular job with it. But, you know, one thing I think that people do not forgive Shawn Michaels for, and this might be a little selfish, but so many years, you know, one more match. No, I'm retired. Years and years, I'm retired. Crown Prince. Oh, we want the DX. Vince, we want the DX to reunite. Where do I sign the bottom line? And I think that's why Shawn Michaels banned so many people on Twitter back in the day, because people are like, oh, for that Saudi money, you come out of retirement. And, you know, he was like, never again. I don't care how much money there. Listen, I do not fault Shawn Michaels because he is providing for his family. Guy got 7 digits. Support, he gave it to his family for their future. You know, take care of the bills, kids' education. He didn't take that money and go out and fucking buy a plane with it, or, you know, just blow it away. That was money for his family. That's why I can't criticize him in the end. But as a wrestling fan, it took Saudi Arabia to get Shawn Michaels out of retirement, not the fans. But when Crown Jewel first came out, a lot of people complained. Remember all the complaints? Now Crown Jewel is one of the better shows out there. And for obvious reason, because of the amount of money that's involved. And as we get closer to the end of that deal, they want to make sure, WWE, that Saudi will re-up. I mean, they got plenty of money. I sincerely doubt Saudi's going to tell WWE the next time around, look, you know, we want to extend our deal, but I could only give you half of what I used to. I don't think so. I think that they will re-up, and they could possibly even offer more money next time around. WWE is going to make sure that they deliver beyond. But have a good time. Have a good time, man. Saudi shows are not bad. They do stand out. JS says a lot of restaurants on that list are expensive. Cheesecake Factory is a nice restaurant. See, that's another thing, guys, you need to realize. I didn't look up where this girl lived, where this woman lived. If she lived in a posh neighborhood, you know, then I would be like, you know what? That Cheesecake Factory might be a really, really nice restaurant. But if she's in the fucking hood, to say it like that, you know, maybe I don't want to go to Cheesecake Factory. You know what I mean? Like, that might not be the best place to go. It really depends on the place. You know, it depends on the location. You know, some areas, listen, I bring up Red Lobster because I've gone to Red Lobster many times in my life. And my grandmother, when I was alive, we used to go to Sizzler. And I could tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's a Red Lobster in Suffolk County, Long Island, that is still spectacular. Then there's one on Sunrise Highway that is ghetto. And then there's one in Brooklyn that I went in there once and it smelled like a horse took a shit. If you ever went to a barn and smelled that horse smell, it smelled like a horse took a shit inside there. It smelled awful. So it really depends on where you live too. Plus, you saw how she was dressed up. Is she ghetto and wanting to feel like $1 million princess? Or is she from this posh neighborhood that, oh, I cannot drink out of a paper cup. It must be China. Like you get some people like that. I met somebody once that was like that. Do you want some water? I give her a paper cup. Do you have a glass? Red Lobster sucks. Well, I'm more about Diesti here. Red Lobster's for those Cheddar Bay biscuits. Trust me. I haven't eaten Red Lobster in a couple of years. I can guarantee you there's still a little bit of fat cells in my body from those Cheddar Bay biscuits. Absolutely. All right. Let's spend about another 10 minutes and then we'll call it because we got a big night tomorrow. Tomorrow's a triple show. Raw review, Crown Jewel predictions, Halloween Havoc week 2 predictions. I'm still laughing it up about last week's Halloween Havoc predictions. We nailed everything. I mean, the tag match, like I said, was, we kind of screwed up, but we also said that D'Angelo and Stax have had a miserable run and they should drop those titles. But when Dante Chen came out, man, that was just tremendous. I was in a watch party and I lost it. I can't show the footage here. It's on my Twitter, but Dante Chen came out for that match and I fucking lost it. That was a fun night, man. That was fun. Ponderosa, it was a great restaurant here in New York. I don't know if you had it outside of New York, but reveals my age a little bit. There used to be a restaurant in Forest Hills called Beefsteak Charlie's. If you go on YouTube and search that name, you'll see some of the old commercials. The guy had a mustache, looked like the guy in Dunkin' Donuts. Remember Time to Make the Donuts? Beefsteak Charlie's was awesome. I used to go to Beefsteak Charlie's on a couple of dates back in the day. That was an awesome restaurant to take somebody to. And it was not really expensive either. It was a steakhouse, but it was pretty, good on the price. Not an expensive place to go to. All right. No, we're not going to spend another hour. I have stuff to do. I got to prepare for Senor Gangster tomorrow to notarize papers. I don't want to overload anyone. I don't want to overload myself either. So we will leave here in about 10 minutes and we'll pick up this conversation tomorrow. So, yeah, a lot of discussion in the chat about these restaurants. So, happy 23 months, theme parks and things with Johnny. 23 months. Yes, 23 months as a member of the family. Was a really cool sight to see Vince, Mike Tyson, and Eminem sitting together. Eminem doesn't look like a right winger. They were at the Tyson Fury fight. Vince's mustache, it looks like a landing strip now, if you know what I mean. He's got just like he put it this way. I don't want to get in controversial here, but he's got like a tiny little landing strip now. Just like barely fuzz. For me, Vince's hair dye stands out more than his mustache. To me, that's Vince trying to feel like he's still a younger guy. I think Vince, it is depressing at times to get old. Absolutely is. And I think Vince wants to feel invigorated like this is 20 years ago. So he dyes his hair and tries to look the part. The cane situation, I don't mean Glenn Jacobs, but him walking around with the cane, that is more because of his spinal surgery. A lot of people I don't think really understood how serious his surgery was. And he's still not completely got all his strength back, and especially with that spine being very fragile and his balance being a little bit uneven, having a fall, especially after that surgery, could be very, very serious. So him walking around with the cane is more because of the surgery he had, and that's going to take a long time for him to recover. It's not just, put a Band-Aid on it and you're good to go. It's going to be for a while. He may have to walk with a cane for the rest of his life, and It's just the way it is. But Vince, he didn't look bad yesterday. But we're not supposed to say that, though. Yeah, the mustache makes him look villainous. But I've always had my mustache. I mean, honestly, when I went into the Navy in 1988, they made me shave off a majority of it, but I still had a little bit like what Vince had. Like, they let you keep it super, super short. So I still had a little bit of peach fuzz under my nose. But I've had a mustache since I think I was 15. I think, it was much smaller at the time. But if you look at some of those retro photos when I dressed up like Miami Vice with the white pants and everything, if you look closely, you'll see the mustache. Never shaved it off. Even when I shaved my head for cancer, for St. Baldrick's, I didn't shave the mustache. They told me, shave your head. And then they're like, would you shave your mustache? Like, no, I'll shave my head. And I shaved my head bald. But I didn't shave my mustache off. Vince is 77. It's pretty wild when you think back to his feud with Austin. And that's 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. And Vince was in his 50s at the time. You look at wrestling now, and people say that 50 now is the new 35. You see Edge still wrestling. You see Christian. You see, look, Christian doesn't have many matches anymore, but you see some wrestlers that are in their 50s, and they still look incredible. I think people forget, even though Vince did not have many matches back in the day, when you realize that the guy was in his upper 50s, mid-50s, doing some of the bumps that he was doing, the only reason why we didn't really take note about the age at the time was because there weren't many WWF and WCW wrestlers that were in their 50s at the time. Ric Flair might be the rare exception. Rick was around 50-ish, but outside of that, a lot of wrestlers, Hogan, was maybe an exception to the rule as well, but Hogan even, I think people don't realize when Hogan came back to the WWE in 2002, I think it was. How old was he? He might have just been 50, maybe 49. I think that kind of blows people away that Hogan was only around 50. Because look, if Hogan right now is 70, that means he was, around 50 at the time, because we're 2023. So when people now say that 50 is new to 35, that's because there's a lot of people in wrestling back in the 90s that are still doing it today. Your Rob Van Dams, your Jeff Hardys, your Matt Hardys, Christian, Edge, and some of those wrestlers, Bubba Ray, Devon. By the way, I think today is the anniversary that Bubba Ray became a Dudley. I know nobody on social media brought it up, and I'm not going to bring it up either. I will give you another anniversary. Does anybody remember the show, But I'm Chris Jericho? Does anybody remember that? I wanted to post it on Twitter today, but I know, 95% of people out there aren't going to give a shit, so I didn't even bother. Today is the 10-year anniversary that Chris Jericho debuted his reality series, But I'm Chris Jericho. And I guarantee about 99% of people out there do not remember it. I will definitely bring it up tomorrow for a brief moment when we plug the history show, but today is the 10-year anniversary of But I'm Chris Jericho. It is pretty interesting to look back on it. You realize that Chris Jericho was trying to become a reality star, a celebrity, a TV star. Hosted the game show. What was it? Wipeout at the time. Right around that time, he hosted that. I think it was ABC. Might have been Wipeout or Burnout or something. I think it was Wipeout. Something out. But Chris Jericho, then he did Dancing with the Stars. Chris Jericho, whether you like him in AEW or not, that guy has had an amazing fucking career, man. And he still can go. He still can go. I'm one of the few that has always appreciated Chris Jericho. Always appreciated Chris Jericho. I don't like some of the things in AEW behind the scenes, but I've said for a long time he's the number 3 guy in AEW. People thought I was nuts 2 years ago when I said Chris Jericho's the number 3 guy. Tony Khan is number 1. Mega is number 2, even though she's not a guy. And Chris Jericho is number 3. He's got a lot of power. But if you were Chris Jericho, you would want that power too. There's none of you out there that would say, if I was in Chris Jericho's position, I wouldn't want that power. Yes, you would. Yes, you absolutely would. So 10 years ago today. But I'm Chris Jericho. Did Hogan Knows Best ruin Hulk Hogan? Ask Russ. No, I think it was God's will. When John Graziano got into the car accident and Nick went to jail, and I still remember those prison phone call tapes. I want to go outside. I want fresh air. I want to touch the flowers. That was Nick. And Hulk is like, it was God's will, brother. Hulk Hogan came off awful at that time. And then, later on, he had the incident, using the N-word. It was a combination of things. I think Hogan Knows Best was grossly exaggerated, but there was a series of events that happened that spelled Hogan's demise. It was the John Graziano thing, in my opinion. That was just awful to hear. Even if he was doing it to console his son, to try to take the blame off of his son, I get it. You love your son. You care no matter what, but that didn't help. That didn't help. So, JS is asking, is it dangerous to watch 88 Judgment Day segments a week? I think saying 88 is a bit overboard. No, it's not dangerous. It's just boring. Tomorrow we're going to get the same thing because Seth Rollins is taking on JD McDonough. That's why I think there's a possibility Seth Rollins may end up being in the Survivor Series team. Because tomorrow the Judgment Day going to come out. We won Monday Night Raw. That's why tomorrow's review is going to be quick. We're going to focus on Crown Jewel predictions more than anything. Tomorrow's going to be rinse and repeat. It's the go-home show to Crown Jewel. Listen, you could predict tomorrow's Raw as easy as this. Seth Rollins is taking on JD McDonough. Saturday is Crown Jewel. Seth Rollins will probably beat JD McDonough by disqualification because the Judgment Day will get involved. Maybe it's Damian Priest. Maybe it's a tease of a cash-in. Dominic Mysterio, whoever you want to choose is going to get involved. Drew McIntyre is going to somehow be out there, and Tease is going to make the save, and he's going to turn around and walk to the back. Or maybe he teases make the save, and then Damian Priest is about to cash in, and Drew McIntyre stops Damian Priest. Either way, all tomorrow is going to do is to add drama to Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. That is going to be the focus of tomorrow. Cody Rhodes will get involved because he's got the match with Damian Priest on Saturday. Yeah, that's really what it is. Dominic Mysterio is probably going to be more involved with Logan Paul than anything else, but that's what it's going to be tomorrow. Judgment Day is going to fuck with Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre is going to somehow be involved in it, and Drew is probably going to step aside and let Seth Rollins take a beating. That's it. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow's Raw is kind of passable, but it's going to be a very, very easy show to review. So, all right. Let's do 2 more questions and let's get out of here. Had a busy week this week. Really busy week this week. Fun week, though. Definitely had a fun week. I can't believe Halloween's in 2 days, man. For all of you out there that do celebrate Halloween, happy Halloween. Whether you're trick-or-treating or you got youngins that trick-or-treat or you just dress up or you just celebrate Halloween in a different way. So, Cash Wheeler's gun charge is still pending. But, I will tell you this. Look, I'm not trying to report news, but a lot of people truly believe that this will ultimately get thrown out or he's going to plead guilty to a much lesser charge. Because I've said this since the weekend it happened. I've had a few people DM me afterwards and say, DT, you're spot on with that. The road rage incident happened, but the other guy was provoking a lot of shit. And the other guy was being an asshole, and then Cash Wheeler showed his gun, And that guy is like, oh yeah? And he called the cops. That's what happened. The other guy is not as innocent. That doesn't mean that Cash Wheeler should have put out his gun. That's a big no-no. But the other guy isn't as innocent as you think. And ultimately, the other guy, I expect, if he could, would drop the charges. But the cops doesn't necessarily drop theirs because you're not allowed to show a gun like that. So even if the other guy drops the charges, the cops still have to deal in some way to Cash Wheeler. I expect that to be done in the near future. And no, Cash Wheeler should not join the gun club. No. But I am enjoying the guns. I'm enjoying the guns. You know, I still think them winning the tag titles that time was stupid, but they have maximized their exposure, and they have worked hard. Give their dad credit. I know storyline and not supposed, but give their dad a lot of credit because he has really taught them well, and they train their ass off to try to make it work. The Guns are definitely one of those teams that, 5 years from now could take it to the next level. I mean, they still have to change their look a little bit, maybe put on a little bit more weight, but they really have impressed me. The last 6 months, I'm digging the Guns. I like the Guns. You know what's good about the Guns? They're not forcing them. Like, yes, they're annoying mosquitoes on TV. They're like mosquitoes you just want to splat. They are annoying as fuck. But you could see that you could feel when somebody's putting in work. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Keith Lee was one of my favorites in NXT. For a while, doing the early episodes of Wednesday Night Dynamite, he was my favorite. I used to say it every week on these shows. When I watch Keith Lee in AEW, to me, this doesn't feel like a guy that's putting in a lot of work to try to get his character over and to bring back a little bit of that, what brought Keith Lee to the table, NXT. To me, it's just a guy, it's working and he's wrestling. And he's kind of having fun, but you feel like afterwards it's, okay, let's go shower and go to the Waffle House instead of going to the school or the gym and trying to hone up the skills. You could feel when somebody's putting in the work. Abaddon, yes, she got the match on Collision because it's Halloween. But yesterday, that's the first time people have seen Abaddon in a couple of years. Abaddon has put in a lot of work to try to improve her abilities. And you could see it. If you've seen her leading into yesterday was not the best example of it, but if you've seen her leading up to yesterday, she's put in the work. You could feel, you could see, you could sense when somebody's putting in the work. The Guns are putting in the work. All right. One more question, and I'm going to jet. I did get a kick out of, this is more of a comment by someone, I did get a kick out of Jim Ross saying that somebody's going to snatch up Brock Anderson. Oh, bless his little heart. His love for Arn. If I'm a wrestling promoter and I look at Brock Anderson, I have him squashed by Umaga if he was still alive. Like, Brock Anderson would be like, if Justin Roberts was announcing AEW, Justin Roberts would do the whole deep introductions for Brody King, and then he would say, weighing in at 210 pounds, Brock Anderson. Like, that's not someone that you snatch up. Snatch him up. Based on what? What? Because he kind of looks like he's got Arn Anderson's hair? Like, come on, I'm not trying to be cold, but Brock Anderson, oh, he's so talented, somebody will snatch him up. If he was so fucking talented, why isn't he in AEW and not on TV? That's one of the big mistakes Tony Khan has done over the last few years. Putting siblings on TV or kids on TV simply to please the fathers. Didn't they put Shivani's kid on TV once? They put Brock Anderson a couple of times, and like, come on, man, stop pandering because you're Hall of Famers. You want to make them feel good. Seriously. I put Brock Anderson in David Sammartino territory right now. Brock Anderson might be a step up Angelo Mosca Jr. Angelo Mosca Jr. will always be, for me, the worst wrestler in the history of wrestling, the worst son as far as in-ring ability, Angelo Mosca Jr., the worst wrestler that ever got a push. Even when I saw the magazines, like I saw a few of his matches and I see him profiled in the magazine feuding with Ivan Koloff, and I'm like, why? Like, why is he being covered? He was that bad. Brock Anderson is a step above Angelo Mosca Jr. Oh, I'm not trashing a Waffle House. I wish there were Waffle Houses where I am. And we have an IHOP a few minutes away, but it's not the greatest neighborhood. It's Ozone Park, Queens. It's kind of shitty. If you go on Yelp, you'll see what I'm talking about. So Marco Stunt's father is not in wrestling. He said the worst in the history of sons, like of fathers who had decent careers. Angelo Mosca Jr. is number one. All right, let's jet. We are almost 90 minutes in. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight for a fun episode of The Sit Down. I will now play it back on 5 times the speed and get a little synopsis together for those that didn't join us live. And they could see what you all wanted to talk about tonight, so I appreciate it as always. Thank you for hanging out for a little bit tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For some of you out there, happy Monday. I know we're already at Monday for you. And again, the schedule this week, tomorrow night, we will have, I'm jumping the gun. All right, here is tomorrow night. We have Raw Review, Halloween Havoc predictions, quick predictions, and your Crown Jewel preview and predictions. That'll be tomorrow night. Then Tuesday will be Patreon. Unfortunately, I did not resize it, but yeah, we will talk about, could we fix this? Yes, we can. Can we fix this? There we go. That'll be Wednesday. We will ponder the possibility of Jack Perry being the devil in disguise. And would it work? So, not saying that that'll happen. I'm still appreciating all the love that I got for this Basic Instinct poster. People, I didn't realize how many people had never saw the original movie Basic Instinct. I honestly thought after WrestleMania, 21, that a lot of people would have tuned into the film because of the parody that Benoit and Jericho and Christian did with Stacy Keibler. And then we have this weekend, Saturday, Crown Jewel, post-show review. Should be happening around 4 o'clock. Yes, I refurbished the picture. I refurbished it. I admit it. So, yeah, we got your preview and predictions, and then, we got your post-show review. So, sometimes I'm a little lazy. And I'll leave you with this. I had to redo this banner. I was looking at some of my feedback from yesterday's show, and the feedback was positive about the show. But people did not like the fact that I put nope, that he has no shot of winning the championship. We know he isn't going to win the championship, but we could fantasize and pretend like it's a possibility. So I had to take the nope out of there. And especially after he hit the blunt force trauma to Reigns on Friday, I just put that in there too. But yeah, that match is going to be fun. We just got to see who ends up getting involved in that match. One thing is for certain, at Crown Jewel, there will be a moment where LA Knight will come to 2 99 1/100ths away from winning the championship, and Roman Reigns will kick out. There'll be moments that we honestly think, holy shit, could it really happen? But it's probably not. But doesn't mean it won't happen next year, though. 2024, totally different story. Once Cody finishes the story, then, anything could happen. So, but I'm going to get out of here. Much love, as always, everyone. Have a great rest of your Sunday or Monday, and I will catch you all on the next show, which will be Monday night, right after Raw. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.